.com, and DNS does that conversion even more dynamically than the old school 1-800.
So these demos I love, but they're admittedly a little hard to do sometimes technologically, using traceroute, NSLOOKUP, or ping, or a few other command line tools on Linux or Mac OS or Windows. Traceroute especially, I think, has just been so eye-opening for myself back in the day, and so many students since, when you actually trace the route between a place like Harvard and maybe MIT, or Stanford, or CNN.co.jp across the Pacific Ocean, because you really see the increased latency in the hops that are actually traveling through an ocean, right? Or just down the road in this case.
Yeah, it really is eye-opening to actually see those hops and take away. It's like, oh, it's not just one machine talking to another. It's got to go through a lot of different things along the way. The unfortunate thing with an example like traceroute is that it's often kind of blocked. It gets shut down.
Yeah, you either see a whole bunch of stars or asterisks on the screen, or it just doesn't give you back correct information. In fact, on CS50 IDE, because of the cloud infrastructure it's running on, it's not enlightening. So I'm kind of doing a little bit of cooking show magic here, where usually the terminal window I'm using is actually connected to another server where it's not blocked, so I can simulate what's going on, just because it's so visually compelling. But it's a lot harder for students or teachers in their own schools to replicate that demo without a bit of advanced prep work.
But with teachers who maybe have Mac computers, it's something that you can do in the Mac terminal.
It is, and in Windows too. It's just trace
well.
RT instead of route.
So it's definitely possible to do it. It would be cool if students could also do it pretty easily from their IDEs.
I agree. This is a minor enhancement I've done in recent years. -Q1 sends just one query instead of 3, because it was an FAQ as to like why there are 3 numbers for every row on the screen.
Oh, for the times?
Yeah, and it's just meant to give you sort of a visual average of things, or just a few numbers you can lump together and average, but it was just a distraction, and it also frankly just makes the text wrap, especially when the font's a little bigger, so I try to simplify it a little bit like this. But it's great fun, because this is Harvard specific now, but having students at Harvard at least see familiar phrases like SC for Science Center, or GW for Gateway, which we introduce here, or NOX for Northern Crossroads, or better yet is when you start to see things like, in this case, of course, we're not seeing it. Sometimes you see like airport codes in the name of the domains, which hint at what city-state they're in.
In fact, we have had an example in the past where we have spoken to Yale. We've tapped into Yale, which I think somehow gets routed through JFK Airport, even though it's past.
Well, it might not be the airport, but
the airport, that area,
York,
area, yeah. That overshoots New Haven a little bit from Cambridge.
But there's some good opportunities too here that are pretty non-deterministic every time we run this, whereby that last hop took far fewer milliseconds than the second to last hop, even though each of these is supposed to be from point A to point I+1, so to speak. They're not cumulative, but that just hints at the variability in routers' buffers, and any congestion there might be, or need to retransmit or so forth. So it sort of captures some real-world realities.
Particularly dramatic when you're crossing an ocean and you only have a couple of cables that you can use, and all the traffic is trying to get through it.
That's my favorite, when you actually see a jump of like 100 more milliseconds, suggestive that there's something big in the way.
Which is still pretty amazing that you can get to the other side of the world so fast.
I tell people that we have transatlantic, transpacific cables underneath the ocean. It still blows my mind.